What is up, everybody? Welcome into the live stream. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. Happy Sunday night. Boy, have we got some things to talk about. I mean, there's just so much that changes every week in the NFL, as we know. So I am going to be mainly focusing on players that are on the rise, players whose stock is skyrocketing, and players that are going to the moon. I'm also going to be answering all your fantasy football questions, so make sure to drop your questions in the live stream as I'm going along. It looks like my live stream just started. I've been talking for like 30 seconds, but it decided not to start until right now. Anyway, I am going to be giving y'all my players that are on the rise, and I'm going to be talking about every single one of them and why their stock is going through the roof. And I've got a whole list of players right here, but if there's anybody that I forget, anybody that went off this week that you think is going to continue to go off, that you think is going to continue to explode in fantasy football, make sure that you let me know if I forget. So, yeah, just let me know in the comments. What's up, Kels22? Good to have you in here. Yeah, Nico Collins is just absolutely exploding. He's definitely on my list of players that's heading towards the moon. And what I'm going to be talking about, first of all, though, is Mr. James Conner. Now, this is a guy who comes out for a second week in a row and gets a pretty significant workload, averages over 5 yards a carry. It looks like he's the centerpiece of his offense. Obviously, it was the Marvin Harrison Jr. show today. The offense was running through Marvin Harrison Jr. We expected him to have a bounce back. And, yeah, I mean, we just like what we're seeing from James Conner from an opportunity share perspective, from a talent perspective. We know that he's not going to get scripted out of games because last game when they were playing from behind, what happens? James Conner has 4 targets. What happens this time when they're playing from ahead? James Conner gets a freaking boatload of carries. So, yes, James Conner is an absolute dog, and it looks like this offense – yeah, Caleb Williams looked absolutely terrible. DJ Moore was clearly getting frustrated, and it just really wasn't a pretty sight. I don't like what I'm seeing from the Bears. What could I get by trading away DJ Moore? Right now, not shit, because DJ Moore really isn't performing, not because of his, it's not his fault, but he's got a quarterback named Caleb Williams who just, yeah. Caleb Williams is Justin Fields with nail polish. I 100% agree with you there, Kels22. I don't like what we're seeing from Caleb Williams. And right now, I think it's pretty hard to sell DJ Moore. So another player I wanted to talk about, and Kels22 is going to like this, and that's Nico Collins. Yeah, I have to admit, I was completely wrong in my analysis that Tank Dell was going to be the wide receiver one in this offense. Obviously, it's Nico Collins. This dude comes out and gets 10 freaking targets, 8 receptions, 100-plus receiving yards, gets in the end zone. This dude is a freaking monster, and if you look at the athletic intangibles, it makes sense. I mean, he is the biggest, fastest, most athletic receiver in his offense, and, Tank Dell's a smaller guy. Stephon Diggs is a smaller guy. They've both shown to be wide receiver ones before, but Nico Collins is the alpha in this offense. Now, it's hard to say that concretely after 2 weeks, but, yeah, 6'4", 4'3" speed. The dude has incredible athletic intangibles, and he's the number one wide receiver in the CJ Stroud-led offense. So, yeah. Nico Collins, what a monster game. The dude is heading to the moon, and I don't see anywhere to go but up for Nico Collins. I think that he's a hold right now. We're damn sure not going to be selling him high. We are holding on to Nico Collins because he is a potential league winner. Next player on my list, and this is going to be contingent upon him not being too injured right now. We got to see what happens with Amon-Ra St. Brown. All reports are that the injury isn't all that serious. And so what we're looking for from Amon-Ra St. Brown is for him to get back on the field as soon as possible. With that being said, the dude comes out in a massive bounce back game and has 19 freaking targets. 19 targets for Amon-Ra St. Brown. What an incredible bounce back game. Obviously, Jameson Williams is going to be heavily involved in this offense as well. So I like Jameson Williams the rest of the season, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is still the number one wide receiver in this offense. The dude's going to be exploding this year as long as he's able to stay healthy and on the field. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he set a record this game for most targets in his career in a single game with 19 targets. Off the top of my head, I don't ever think he's had a game with more than 19 targets. That's pretty damn hard to do. This dude's an absolute target hog. He's an absolute beast. As long as he's on the field, Amon-Ra St. Brown to the moon. Next player on my list, and this one's obvious, he absolutely tore up my Cowboys today, and that is Alvin Kamara. Now, this is a dude who comes out and just absolutely just lights the world on fire. I mean, this dude comes out, has 4 touchdowns. He's absolutely just ridiculously efficient in both the running game and the passing game. sees targets out of the backfield, 3 to be specific. He also ran the ball for over 5 yards per carry. Alvin Kamara to the freaking moon. This dude is winning leagues at this point. If you got Alvin Kamara, you got him as an absolute steal. Now, not to toot my own horn, but you got Kamara, Barkley, and Nico Jama all on one team. That team is absolutely headed to the moon, my man. That team is going to explode. You're probably going to win your league, to be honest with you. I'm not just blowing smoke. My gosh, you're absolutely loaded. Saquon probably goes off tomorrow night. If you got Alvin Kamara, Mixon blew it for me. Yeah, FBU, I'm sorry about that, man. I'm sorry about Joe Mixon, man. I mean, look, Joe Mixon was due to regress. I did have him kind of as a sell-high candidate after week 1, but from a season-long perspective, I wouldn't panic. He's still a very good running back and a very good offense. We got to see what happens with the injury, though. I mean, obviously, he went down, and I believe it was the third quarter. I believe it was the third quarter with the ankle injury. It very much looked to me like he potentially sprained his ankle, bro. Like the way he went down, that's just such a dangerous tackle. I forgot what the exact name of the tackle is, but when a defender tackles a player from behind, they drag their body down and they drag the player down with them. It's just an incredibly dangerous way to tackle somebody. It's how Tony Pollard broke his leg in the playoffs 2 years ago. It's now how Mixon just got injured on this play. I wouldn't panic season long on Joe Mixon as long as he's able to get back on the field, but we obviously have to monitor the injury. Sorry he blew it for you, but Kamara to the freaking moon right now. Horse collar, hip tackle, whatever you want to call it. Kamara to the freaking moon. Kamara was the highest scoring fantasy player on the week. And then obviously another player that is heading to the moon right now actually is quite obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, this is a guy who I was telling everybody to buy low on after week 1. I was telling everyone to buy low on Marvin Harrison Jr. because, well, he comes out and he only had 1 reception and 4 receiving yards. He had an absolutely terrible performance in week 1, but Kyler Murray missed him when he was way open downfield. Kyler somehow didn't see him, and he could have had a big week 1 had that not been the case. And here we go. Marvin Harrison Jr. comes out right out of the gate. It was clearly the game plan for the Cardinals to come out and feed Marvin Harrison Jr. right out of the gate. That's exactly what they did. If they weren't absolutely annihilating the Rams in this game, mark my words, Marvin Harrison Jr. would have had over 40 fantasy points in this game, but he sort of got scripted out because the Cardinals were absolutely blowing the doors off the Rams. So they pretty much just started handing the ball to James Conner like they're going to do when they're ahead in games this year. That's why I like James Conner so much, because he doesn't get scripted out of games. He's either going to be running out the clock or he's going to be catching passes at the teams from behind. But, side note, Marvin Harrison Jr. is absolutely going to the moon. This dude is a freaking monster. Chris Godwin to the moon. Yes, Chris Godwin, Kels, my most owned player on Underdog Fantasy. I own 27% Chris Godwin on Underdog Fantasy. He is my most drafted player this year, and I very much was thinking going into the season, hey, Mike Evans, he's got to hit that age cliff at some point, right? I still think he's going to be really good this year, but Chris Godwin very well could be the wide receiver 1 in the offense. He had just as many targets as Mike Evans did last year. He's out-targeting him on the early season. Chris Godwin, I'm glad you brought him up because he's on my players list of players that are going to the moon here. And Chris Godwin is absolutely exploding in this offense. He comes out in back-to-back games and out-targets Mike Evans. He has 8 targets in week 1. He has 8 targets in week 2. He's caught 15 out of his 16 passes. This dude has been ridiculously efficient with Baker Mayfield, finds the end zone. Godwin is so back. Thank you, Andre. You said it. You're 100% right. Godwin is back, and I'm so glad he's my most owned player on Underdog. I hope that y'all took my offseason advice and drafted as much Chris Godwin as possible because this dude's going to the freaking moon. This dude is going to win leagues this season as long as he stays healthy and on the field. And if he's getting this consistent of a target share, he could be a top 8 wide receiver in all of fantasy, maybe even top 6 or 7. I hate that Pacheco got injured. Oh, my gosh, there's so many freaking injuries this week. I mean, we just had so many injuries at so many positions in this week and in the first 2 weeks of the season. It's really just disappointing to see. Next player on my list of players that are on the rise, speaking of the Lions offense and Lions wide receivers, is Jameson Williams. Now, this is a guy who just comes out and he is the big play wide receiver for the team. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the target hog. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to get his share of downfield targets, but Jameson Williams is kind of that alpha X downfield big-time playmaking wide receiver who gives you a massively high weekly ceiling on a weekly basis, playing in a very good offense. And with that being said, being in one of the best offenses in the NFL, projected to score some of the most points in the NFL, the Detroit Lions All their players are going to the moon. Sam Laporta has been a little bit of a disappointment so far, but look for him to bounce back as well. But at the same time, I think a reason why Sam Laporta isn't dominating as much is because Jameson Williams is actually on the field this year, and he very well could be the next biggest, most badass pass catcher on this team and overtake Sam Laporta, and it could cause Sam Laporta to have a little bit of a downtick this year. I like Jameson Williams. The dude is on the freaking rise. Y'all sleep on Braylon Allen. Should I cuff him with Hall? I wouldn't say that I sleep on Braylon Allen. I actually drafted a pretty good amount of them on Underdog. I just traded Gardner Minshew in a super flex league for Chris Godwin. You just absolutely fleeced that dude, Kels22. Good job on that. Another player that I wanted to talk about is Brian Robinson Jr. Now, this is a guy who's clearly the running back one in his offense. Now, going into the season, it looked like it was going to be a split opportunity share between him and Austin Eckler. Either way, he's shown to be the more efficient back. He's gotten a little bit more volume than Austin Eckler, and he's actually catching passes out of the backfield. Whenever they got Austin Eckler, I was afraid that Brian Robinson Jr. wasn't going to see any targets out of the backfield. That's not the case. He's catching passes. He's running. And yes, Kels22, he is an absolute beast. Do I like Neighbors' performance this week? Yes, I like Neighbors' performance this week. It was a very good sign to see him actually produce. I was worried about him being in this Giants offense led by Daniel Jones, but it looks like he's just one of those quarterback-proof talents, kind of like Justin Jefferson, where it doesn't matter who's slinging him the rock. The dude's probably just going to freaking produce. Now, that being said, I really hope that the offense gets better from an overall efficiency standpoint and is good on a weekly basis, or at least outperforms expectations. I don't expect them to be good, but if they can outperform expectations, Malik Neighbors' upside could be tremendously high. And speaking on Brian Robinson Jr., somebody who sounds similar to him, and Brian Thomas Jr. is looking like he very well could be a very good NFL wide receiver. Should I trade Amari Cooper? Look, man, Amari Cooper is very hard to sell right now. The whole concept between buying low and selling high is to not sell players coming off absolutely terrible performances, especially back-to-back terrible performances. Amari Cooper comes out and just really isn't his connection with Deshaun Watson is just not there. And, I was preaching Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper stacks all last year during the offseason, all this year during the offseason. And yes, Andre, no problem on the Marvin Harrison Jr. advice. Yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about Amari Cooper. And right now, you cannot sell him for a ham sandwich. You will get absolutely nothing in return. So I think the best thing you can do right now with Amari Cooper is hold him. Don't do anything like drop him. Amari Cooper still has upside, bro. It's Amari freaking Cooper. The dude has upside. We saw the ridiculous weekly ceiling last year. He helped a lot of people win a ton of money on Underdog with that super high ceiling performance late in the season. Don't drop Amari Cooper. Don't do anything stupid. But you can't sell him for anything right now. So another player on my list of risers is this guy right here, Mr. Josh Jacobs. Now, this is a guy in Josh Jacobs who comes out and gets 32 freaking carries this week. 32 freaking carries. This dude is an absolute monster. Had he not fumbled on the goal line, he was that just one play away from having an absolute monster game. This dude would have absolutely gone off had that been a touchdown instead of a fumble. Now, when you look at his overall fantasy points, this guy's one of the better buy lows in fantasy right now, because for people that just chase box scores and they don't look at the underlying usage and all they look at is fantasy points, they're going to see that Josh Jacobs has come out and had less than 26 total fantasy points in the first two games combined and think, hey, Josh Jacobs isn't that good. But look, this dude had 32 carries. He's averaged over 5 yards a carry in his offense. He averaged over 5 yards a carry today. He averaged over 5 yards a carry in the first game of the season. The dude's efficiency is through the roof. He's an absolute monster running behind a solid offensive line. When Jordan Love comes back, this offense is going to be elite. He's going to have touchdown upside. Josh Jacobs could finish as the running back one in fantasy. Yes, the running back one. He has that upside, and right now you can buy low on him. Josh Jacobs to the freaking moon. This dude is an absolute monster. Jacobs had 32 freaking carries this week. 32 carries for Jacobs. I mean, what an absolute monster this guy is. Josh Jacobs to the freaking moon. Anyway, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks pass catchers. And Kels22, you brought up JSN. And that's a guy I want to talk about now. This dude comes out, and we know that wide receivers with great prospect profiles that come out and have year two breakout seasons are not entirely uncommon. In fact, it happens all the time. So JSN is definitely that elite level prospect that we were saying, hey, coming into year two, he could absolutely break out. We saw it with Justin Jefferson. We saw it with Jamar Chase. Of course, those guys kind of broke out in year one, but they had massive year twos, right? Chris Olave had a massive year two. These elite prospects going into year two typically go off. We saw it with CeeDee Lamb. We see it with all kinds of players. JSN is very much looking like he's going to be that guy. And even if DK Metcalf is going off, they can obviously both go off in the same week, so this is a very good sign. JSN to the freaking moon. The dude is an elite talent in what could be a good offense. Either way, the dude's getting an insane target share. JSN to the freaking moon. I traded Stafford for Dak. Was that good? Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think it's a pretty lateral move, to be honest with you. At this point in their career, neither quarterback really has rushing upside. So I think that Stafford for Dak is kind of a lateral move. I don't really think that you're winning or losing that trade, to be honest with you, my friend. Let's see. Who else did I have on my list today of players that are going to the moon? Oh, yeah, Kyler Murray. Now, this is a guy who comes out, and I have a sob story about Kyler Murray, guys. I have something very, very shitty that happened to me in one of my leagues. I have Kyler Murray as my starting quarterback in one of my big money leagues. I had my ESPN app open yesterday. I put my phone in my pocket, and I somehow dropped Kyler Murray in one of my bigger money leagues. I'm super depressed about it. I ended up having to start Justin Fields, who only got 10 fantasy points, and I would have for sure won my matchup that's now coming down to Monday Night Football had I started Kyler Murray, which I very well would have done, had I not put my phone in my pocket and accidentally clicked the drop button. So it's really depressing. I missed out on 17 points. That was a 17-point swing between Kyler Murray and Justin Fields. Either way, Kyler Murray to the freaking moon. This dude has a massively awesome connection with Marvin Harrison Jr. As we expected, he gave you 50-plus rushing yards. You guys hit the like button. We're doing it live here. Let's see. Who is best Pacheco replacement, Steele or P. Ryan? I'm going to have to think on that, man. I think that P. Ryan is probably going to be the guy. I mean, he's typically a guy that's going to get more work as far as target share out of the backfield when it comes to him and Steele. So I think we're going to be leaning P. Ryan, but I'm not too excited about either of them. Trey McBride. Oh, that's another one. Thanks, Kels22. Trey McBride was another player that I wanted to talk about. This guy. Trey freaking McBride is very well looking like he could be the tight end one in fantasy. I mean, the underlying usage, he had the most targets on the team in week one. He comes out and absolutely dominates in week two. He's looking like, I mean, you guys answer this question for me. Who would you rather have rest of the season, Trey McBride or Sam Laporta? I'm thinking almost everyone is going to say Trey McBride. And Sam Laporta was taken higher. You got Trey McBride 2 rounds later. A lot of times you got him after Mark Andrews. It's looking like from the tight end position, Trey McBride very well could have been the biggest steal in the entire draft. So, I don't know. I really like Trey McBride rest of the season, and I expect him to continue to go off. Trey McBride to the freaking moon. He got lucky with that touchdown. Well, I mean, touchdowns are luck when you look at it. I mean, touchdowns are typically something that are a volatile statistic, right? So, if you score a touchdown, you get lucky. Kamara got lucky to score 4 touchdowns today. It's just the way the game script played out. But the dude is getting an insane target share and what's looking like could be a very good offense. So given the underlying usage, I'm not worried about the fact that he got lucky to score a touchdown. It doesn't matter. McBride to the freaking moon. I appreciate you guys following on in. Ask away with your fantasy football questions. Rashid22 on the Saints to the moon. Yeah, I mean, it's starting to look like Rashid Shaheed is going to be more like the 1B to Chris Olave in his offense. In fact, right now it looks like he's the 1A, but at the same time, it's starting to look like it's going to be more of a split opportunity share between Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. But let's keep in mind that it's still very early in the season. And from a season-long perspective, I still think that these spike weeks are going to be few and far in between for Rashid Shaheed. I think that he's not going to go off every week like this because he's so big play dependent. He's not a guy that's ever going to come out and get 12 or 13 targets in a game. So, yes, Rashid Shaheed is looking very good right now. I'm excited to see what he can do. I do have a lot of them in best ball. So I am excited about Rashid Shaheed right now, but I don't think we can expect it every single week, given that the underlying usage just isn't really there. 12, 13 targets. How did the Cowgirls lose? The Cowgirls got absolutely smoked. I don't know, man. They're a different team every week. They're Jekyll and Hyde, bro. I don't know. I don't get it. But should I trade Jordan Mason for Detroit Williams? You're asking if you should trade Jordan Mason for Jamison Williams? Absolutely not. No. Jordan Mason is an absolute must-own fantasy asset right now. I mean, the dude comes out and has 20 carries for 100 yards. The dude is looking like a true workhorse bell cow running back with extreme efficiency in what could be the best offense in the NFL. They had a little bit of a down week today, but don't let that scare you away. I am not doing anything with Jordan Mason other than holding him right now. In fact, I wanted to include him on this list. I don't think I've talked about him yet. Jordan Mason to the freaking moon. This dude gets 20-plus carries, averages over 5 yards a carry in both of his first 2 games, playing in one of the best offenses in the NFL. This dude's going to be a workhorse. It looks like Christian McCaffrey is going to miss significant time. The dude is dealing with Achilles tendonitis. This is something that lingers. It's something that doesn't go away. He is probably going to be out for the freaking season. I mean, right now they're saying, oh, he's on the IR. He's going to miss at least 4 games. But they said that he was going to play in week 1. Would you draft Garindo? Would I draft Garindo or would I pick him up off the waiver wire? I think you mean, would you pick him up off the waiver wire? Yes, I would absolutely pick him up off the waiver wire. In case Jordan Mason goes down, Isaac Garindo doesn't really have anyone behind him. There's really no one behind Isaac Garindo on the depth chart right now. No, trade him, then have Kupp, but have Thomas Jr., so he's next man up. Yeah, waiver wire. Yeah. No trade in, but have Kupp, have Thomas Jr., so he's the next man up. Yeah, man. Sounds good. Jordan Mason, though, to the freaking moon, guys. Jordan Mason to the moon. This is a guy who could be a special player in the NFL. This is a dude who has talent. All right, and we all knew that coming into the season. It was just a matter of, was he going to get any work in the backfield? And there's a reason why Garindo just isn't doing anything. This is Jordan Mason's backfield. Sam Darnold to the moon. I don't know that we could get too excited for Sam Darnold himself as far as like a fantasy football standpoint, as far as overall fantasy output, but he is playing very, very well for Justin Jefferson. So he's one of those quarterbacks that, despite not getting a lot of fantasy points himself, can support a wide receiver 1. He looks very good with Justin Jefferson. Obviously, we've got to see the extent of Justin Jefferson's injury. Does anybody know any updates on Justin Jefferson? I'm not too sure on the extent of his injury right now, but yes, he did ball out today. It was cool to see him have that 97-yard touchdown reception. Justin Jefferson to the freaking moon, like always. This is a dude who is on the rise like every single week, but we have to make sure that his injury isn't too serious. How about them Raiders? The Raiders coming out and beating the Ravens. Now, I called this going into the season, not the Raiders beating the Ravens. I never would have called that. But I said that the Baltimore offense was being a little bit overhyped, and it very much looks like that's the case. I mean, their best receiver is Zay Flowers, right? Zay Flowers is a good player, nothing against him, but the Ravens are an overhyped offense, and we're starting to see that. And yes, the Raiders beat them today. How about the freaking Saints? Derek Carr to the freaking moon. This guy comes out and has a rushing touchdown today on top of all this other productions. Yes, New Orleans is a ridiculous surprise so far. I can't believe how well they're doing. They're by far and away the best offense in the NFL through the first two weeks of the season. I'm not saying they're the best offense in the NFL, but statistically, they are the best offense in the NFL right now. They are looking really damn good. And they did so against the Cowboys defense. 90 points in 2 games. Yeah. They had what? They had 44 points today, or 41 points today. They had 47 points in week 1. Or they had 44 points today, right? 44 to heard JJ is just a bruise or contusion. I hope so, man. I hope that Justin Jefferson doesn't have any serious injuries. One of my in my subscriber league that I play in with some of the people that are, a part of this channel and a part of our subscriber league, I have Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown as my wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. So I cannot have those guys go down with injuries. Trade Burrow and Amari Cooper for Mahomes and Jordan Mason. Amari on my bench. And oh my God, in a heartbeat, dude. In a millisecond. I mean, most people would argue that Burrow to Mahomes is a slightly lateral move. Like, you're only getting a slight downgrade at quarterback, whereas you're getting a significant upgrade at your running back position for a wide receiver who's doing absolutely nothing right now. If you can make that trade and you can get Jordan Mason Oh, and you're trading Burrow for Amari Cooper for Mahomes and Jordan Mason? Oh my gosh, yes. You're getting an upgrade at both positions. You're getting an upgrade from Burrow to Mahomes, and you're getting an upgrade from Cooper to Jordan Mason. So yeah, you need to smash that trade. Absolutely. Go do that right now. Yeah. Appreciate you tuning in, guys. Ask away all your fantasy football questions. I am talking about players that are heading to the moon for the rest of the fantasy football season. And, oh, yeah, a player I need to include on here is Derek freaking Carr. Now, this is a tricky one, right? Because I don't want to get too incredibly excited about him yet because, you know, he's not a quarterback that offers rushing upside despite the fact that he had a rushing touchdown today. He is a quarterback who notoriously just isn't that great for fantasy, but it's looking like his connection with Rashid Shaheed is going to spark a pretty good offensive outbreak for the New Orleans Saints this year. They might be a lot better than expected. They certainly are through 2 weeks, so I don't want to get too excited about Derek Carr yet, but I have all these best ball leagues where I have Derek Carr as my second and third quarterback, and in the first 2 weeks, he's starting over Pat Mahomes and other quarterbacks that I drafted to be way better than him. Shaheed is a monster. Yeah, Shaheed is an absolute monster. The dude is an awesome downfield threat. What about the Pittsburgh backfield? I freaking hate the Pittsburgh backfield. It's so hard to figure out and navigate what's going on with these two running backs. And I don't know, man. Deshaun Watson looks trash. Deshaun Watson does look like trash. He looks absolutely terrible. He was saved by a rushing touchdown today. And I know that some people might think this sounds stubborn, but I'm not ready to give up on Deshaun Watson yet. I want to give it a little more time, but if we see him play 3 or 4 more games the way he's played in the first 2 games in the season, I am going to go ahead and jump ship and get off the Deshaun Watson train. So I'm getting closer and closer to not being in on Deshaun Watson anymore, but I'm not giving up quite yet. It's still very early in the season. Just got Geno Smith and Tank Bigsby for Trevor Lawrence and Deontay Johnson. Hope Bigsby injury is not serious. Yeah, man, I hope so. For you too. You got Geno Smith and Tank Bigsby and just got Geno Smith, Tank Bigsby for Trevor Lawrence, Indiana. Okay. I got you. Yeah, man. I hope it's not serious. Christian Kirk going to the toilet. I was telling Christian Kirk drafters to stop doing what they're doing in the offseason. I mean, there was all these people drafting Christian Kirk on underdog in like the 4th round, and that's just way too early. And the Jacksonville offense does not look good. I mean, they look absolutely terrible. Yeah, they look bad, man. I guess we could go ahead and put Rashid Shaheed on this list. I mean, we got to give respect where it's due. I have no idea how to spell this guy's name. It's absolutely ridiculous, Rashid Shaheed. But it's something like that. Anyway, this is a guy who comes out and just has 2 monster games back-to-back to start the season. It's starting to look like he could function just as well as Chris Olave, if not better than Chris Olave in this offense. His connection with Derek Carr is very good. I still take Chris Olave rest of season over Rashid Shaheed, but given the fact that you drafted Rashid Shaheed in like the 11th round, the dude freaking is a steal right now in fantasy football drafts based on where you got him. Ramondre Stevenson to the moon. Yes, Ramondre Stevenson to the moon. I do have a lot of shares of him on underdog. I have like a 21% market share of Ramondre Stevenson in best ball. And a lot of people were telling me that wasn't good because the offense wasn't going to be good. The offense has outperformed expectations a little bit. And I don't know. I like Ramondre Stevenson. Antonio Gibson also had a very good day. It's starting to look like both running backs can function in this backfield because Ramondre Stevenson has had a very solid start to the season. Antonio Gibson had a good game today. I like the Patriots backfield. They are really exceeding expectations right now. So Patriots backfield to the moon. Appreciate you guys filing on in. If you haven't got my list of players that I have skyrocketing, players that I think are going to be smash plays for the rest of the season, you can always scroll to the top of the chat, scroll down the chat, and look at all the players that I have listed on here. But I'm answering all fantasy football questions here. Feel free to super chat. It certainly helps the channel. You can skip to the front of the line as far as your questions. I'll make sure to answer as many questions as I can, though. I'm here to help you guys with your fantasy football team and help you guys win fantasy football this season. So ask away, and we're going to continue recapping week 2. And if you have any questions about the rest of the week, like tomorrow night's game, go ahead and fire away with those as well. Make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel, guys. I cannot stress enough how important it is that you subscribe to the channel, even if you're catching all of my live streams, commenting, being part of the community and you haven't subscribed yet, it's tremendously important that you subscribe to the channel. So make sure to subscribe. And yeah, that's going to help me get this video out to as many people as possible. And yeah, let's go ahead and put Ramondre on this list. Ramondre to the moon. Ramondre to the moon. How about just the Patriots backfield to the moon? Antonio Gibson looked good today too, man. Appreciate you guys following on in. Yeah, I think McBride could be the tight end one this year. And Andre, I think you said that earlier in the season as well, that you had McBride being your tight end one. It's very much looking like McBride could be the tight end one this year. Big sigh of relief, Mixon came back. Yeah, so what's the extent of the Joe Mixon injury right now? Does anybody have any updates on that? I'm not 100% caught up on the Joe Mixon injury status. Where things stand right now, it sounds like he's going to be okay. Appreciate you guys following on in. Ask away all your fantasy football questions. We're here to win you leagues this year, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to keep recapping week 2 of the fantasy football season and answering your questions about tomorrow night's games as well. Hunter Henry balled out. Hunter Henry always balls out in the early part of the season. I hope that he can continue to do it, but I don't know if I'm necessarily 100% sold that Hunter Henry is going to continue to do that. But at the same time, like, there's the outside chance of him being like the best pass catcher in his offense. So I don't know. The New England Patriots are surprising a lot of people with their production so far. It could be early season flukiness, but I don't know, man. I'm starting to like the Patriots at least a little bit better than what we thought they were going into the season. File on in, everybody. Fantasy football questions, ask away. Oh, boy. Oh, my gosh, Garrett Wilson, man. I wish I could say Garrett Wilson to the moon, but not Garrett Wilson to the moon. What in the hell is going on with Garrett Wilson? I thought he was going to have a really good connection with Aaron Rodgers. I still think he's going to, though. I'll tell you this, man. I'm still sold on Garrett Wilson from a season-long perspective. I think that Breece Hall is a running back that just eats up a shitload of targets. I mean, the dude has had 14 targets through 3 games. They use him as a wide receiver. He got a freaking touchdown reception instead of Garrett Wilson. Now, I'm happy about this because I own a lot of Breece Hall. But, my God, I hope that Garrett Wilson is the one catching the touchdown passes from now on, just for the sake of the fantasy football community. You might consider starting Ramondre. Yeah, I mean, Ramondre's a beast, dude. Ever since taking over the running back 1 role in New England, Ramondre's been awesome. Obviously, had a little bit of a down season last year, but Chase was getting so unlucky today. No penalties being called. Yeah, it definitely happens. There's certain games where, like, the refs are just letting him play more than usual. Who do you think top wide receiver for week 3 waiver ad? You're going to have to catch my waiver wire video. I want to do a lot more research before I answer that question, Bob. So I am going to be doing a waiver video this week and a waiver video every week going forward. So make sure to catch my waiver wire video this week, and I will have a lot of wide receivers that I need you to add, actually. Broncos backfield is trash. Well, the Broncos are just trash in general, bro. They look absolutely terrible. There was so much hype regarding Bo Nix in the preseason, and now he just looks absolutely awful. I don't know who looks worse between Bo Nix and Caleb Williams. What do y'all think? Who looks worse between Bo Nix and Caleb Williams? Because they both look really freaking bad. JSN, people drop JSN. Go get him now. Yeah. Did people drop JSN after week 1? That was dumb. I mean, obviously he didn't have a good week 1, but, like, dropping him is just such an incredible overreaction. Bo Nix is worse, I'm sure, LOL. Yeah, I mean, dude, they both look awful. It's so early, though. Like to come out and say that, like, either one of them is a bust, I think is a little bit premature. If any one of them is a bust, I would say Bo Nix over Caleb Williams, and it very well might be both of them, but it's still so incredibly early in their careers, and the season changes so drastically as we go on from week to week, so it's still a little bit early, but, man, they look awful. Pick up, hold Zach Ertz in my league. Yeah, Kels, you're on to something. JSN is definitely going to the moon right now. Ramondre to the moon. Patriots. How about just the New England backfield? The New England backfield to the freaking moon. They look good, man. Had Tua. People drop quarterbacks and waiver. Pick up Carr, Burrow, or Mayfield. Drop Tua. Well, it looks like Tua is going to be out for quite some time. We don't even know that Tua is ever going to play football again. I would feel ridiculous to tell you to pick up Derek Carr over Joe Burrow. I just can't, in good conscience, tell you to do that. I know that he's been way better to start the season off, but there is no way in hell I could tell you to pick up Derek Carr or Baker Mayfield over Joe Burrow, despite the way the season started. So go ahead and pick up Joe Burrow after waiver wire. Jane Daniel to the moon, New England backfield. JSN must have been classic rage drop. It was rage drop. I mean, like, JSN is a talented wide receiver with a great prospect profile going into year 2 with an aging Tyler Lockett in his offense, pretty much guaranteed to be the wide receiver 2 in his offense. Why would anyone have dropped JSN just from having a bad week 1? It makes absolutely no sense. People are way reactionary over week 1. I wonder if anybody dropped Marvin Harrison Jr. That would be crazy, man. I don't know, man. People are just so reactionary to week 1. It was good to see Marvin Harrison Jr. bounce back. JSN to the moon. Marvin Harrison Jr. to the freaking moon. Let's go. Appreciate y'all's question. Appreciate y'all's questions. Ask away in the chat, and I will answer all fantasy football questions. Recapping week 2 and answering questions for tomorrow night's game. What do y'all think about tomorrow night's game? Any start-sit questions, anything like that? What do y'all think about Jahan Dotson? Jaden Daniels to the moon. Jaden Daniels has a lot of upside. I think that Jaden Daniels is going to have a very good NFL career. In fact, out of this draft class, if you're talking about a dynasty perspective, I like keeping Jaden Daniels over like any quarterback from a dynasty perspective. It's funny how like the number 1 quarterback over the past 2 seasons looks like they're both going to be busts, and the number 2 drafted quarterback off the board looks like they're going to be him. What Barkley projections for tomorrow? I don't know. To say anything other than Barkley's going to explode right now just seems kind of ridiculous to me. I mean, I think that Barkley tomorrow night, I think he's going to get 1 touchdown. I think that he's going to get roughly 21 or 22 fantasy points in a PPR league, probably something like that. Probably something like 22, 23 carries. The dude is an absolute volume hog. He's going to get a shit ton of carries yet again. Chase Brown going to be second fiddle all season to Zach Moss. I don't know, man. Chase Brown is still so young in his career, and the way that he can be utilized is he can be utilized kind of as a pass-catching back. They could line him up out wide and use him as a wide receiver. He's just such a versatile weapon that I don't want to say he's necessarily going to be second fiddle to Zach Moss. It's just that he functions differently in the offense, and they're 2 completely different kinds of backs. So I think from a best ball perspective, they can both be viable, and I don't necessarily think that he's just going to be second fiddle to Zach Moss all season long. Certainly looks like that, but I don't really think that's necessarily going to be the case all season. Chase Brown's a very talented back. He's got great speed, great big playability. I don't necessarily think that that's going to be the case all season, my friend. Appreciate you guys following on in. Ask away fantasy football questions. If you have not hit the like button, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. It's incredibly important that you guys subscribe to the channel so I can continue to get my videos out to everybody. Appreciate you guys for joining the stream. I'm talking about players that are going to the moon. Ask away fantasy football questions for week 2 of the fantasy football season and tomorrow night's game. Would I drop Caleb Williams, Calvin Ridley to the moon? Calvin Ridley. Oh, my gosh. I have not included him on this list yet. Thank you, Kels. Calvin freaking Ridley. Thank you. Thank you. I like that's like the one player that I think I forgot to mention. Would I drop Caleb Williams? I don't know, man. Like, it just depends on the league format. Like, I don't know. If you don't have a whole lot of bench spots, I would definitely drop Caleb Williams. If it's a deeper league and you have more bench spots, I would keep him. Would you drop Chase Brown for Braylon Allen? I'm starting to – I don't know, man. It's just you have to ask yourself this, like, how many opportunities are you going to have to start both of them? And Breece Hall is obviously, you know, like Braylon Allen's a great cuff to Breece Hall in case Breece Hall goes down. So it's a really close call here. But given the fact that you're a Breece Hall owner, I'm going to say go ahead and – yeah, drop Chase Brown for Braylon Allen. I'll go ahead and give you the go-ahead on that. Kai Fairbairn, unreal tonight for kicker. Kai Fairbairn to the moon, obviously. I don't know what it is in fantasy football now, but these kickers, they just don't miss anymore. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a 50-yard field goal, a 60-yard field goal. These kickers, they just make it from everywhere. It's absolutely unbelievable. Anthony Richardson, may get benched by week 7. Anthony Richardson is such a disappointment because he's so fucking raw. He's so fucking talented and like not talented from like a good quarterback perspective, but just from an athletic perspective. The dude is an absolute monster, has a rocket arm, has great rushing upside, has all this fantasy potential, but probably just isn't a very good real life NFL quarterback. So he's not going to be able to shine in fantasy like we want him to, because at the end of the day, if he's not winning games for the Colts, he very well could get benched. It's certainly possible. Appreciate you guys following on in. Ask away. Any questions you got for tomorrow night's game? Calvin Ridley to the freaking moon. Thanks, Kels22, for reminding me. Calvin Ridley comes out and has a monster day. It's looking like he is going to be a very viable play in this offense, and I certainly like him going forward. How many targets did Calvin Ridley have today? I forgot to look at the target share for Calvin Ridley. I wasn't 100% sure how many targets he got today. I mean, obviously he had the big play and a lot of fantasy points, but I want to know what the underlying usage is looking like. I can look it up on my phone right now, but if anybody could drop it in the comments, just let me know how many targets Calvin Ridley had. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And ask away all your fantasy football questions regarding week 2. We are recapping the games. We're talking about players that are going to the moon, and we're talking about players for tomorrow night's game. Start sit questions. Who are we benching? What do you guys think of Jahan Dotson? Let me know in the comments, and let's keep this rolling. Feel free to super chat if you want to help the channel. Calvin only had 6 targets. Calvin only had 6 targets. I mean, that's not bad, though. I mean, like 6 targets is okay. Like when you have his downfield ability and his ability to create separation downfield, 6 targets really isn't bad. I mean, it looks like he's got a good connection with Levis, so I don't know. I'm fine with 6 targets. If you said he had like 3 or 4, I might be a little bit concerned, but 6 targets really isn't bad. So if you guys are just now tuning in, you could always scroll to the top of the chat, and I have a list of players that I think are skyrocketing for the rest of the season. You could probably guess who half of them are. There are a lot of the players that went off today, but there are players that went off today that I don't necessarily think are skyrocketing for the rest of the season. But these players that I have on this list, they're absolute money plays for the rest of the year. Ask away your fantasy football questions, everybody. Let's keep this rolling. Blow up the chat. Ask as many questions as you want. Week 2 is the week of fantasy upsets. Falcons can possibly beat the Eagles. I definitely think the Falcons can beat the Eagles. It's certainly possible. Goff or Derek Carr? Goff. I mean, I know that Derek Carr has been like way better to start the season, but like if you look at these two offenses, like you've got to honestly ask yourself, like who's going to be the better offense rest of season? Goff or Derek Carr? I'm taking Jared Goff. I mean, I know that Derek Carr has been like way better to start the season, but I'm taking Goff rest of the season, bro, quite easily. 2 weeks now, Pittsburgh defense balled out. Pittsburgh defense is absolutely awesome. I mean, that's why they win games. It's crazy how the Pittsburgh Steelers just find ways to win games. They go into like every season as like an underdog, and like they have not had a losing season in the Mike Tomlin era. It's absolutely crazy. They win with defense and running the football. Ravens and Cincinnati are 0-2. Yeah, Pittsburgh or Cowboys D rest of the season. I don't know. I think that the Cowboys defense has a little bit more upside as far as ball hawking ability and turnover ability. So I'm going to be taking the Cowboys defense for the rest of the season just because I think they have a higher ceiling. And when it comes to defense, I do not look for floor. I look for the highest ceiling possible. So I'm probably going to be playing the Cowboys defense for the rest of the season, my friend. Ravens and Cincinnati are 0-2. Yeah, what in the hell is going on with the Ravens and the Bengals? It's obviously very early in the season, and the Bengals always seem to start slow. Joe Burrow was super pissed about their loss today. You can see it in his face. He barely acknowledged Pat Mahomes after the game. I don't know, man. What the hell is going on with the Bengals? This is what happens. This is what happens when players do not show up to camp. They think that they're above it all, and they think that they could just show up on day one after not practicing and ball out. And what's Jamar Chase done so far? What the hell has Jamar Chase done so far? He has not been that good. He's not been Jamar Chase. That's for damn sure. So, you got to show up for training camp. You don't show up for training camp, you hold out, you end up underperforming. If you guys are in here and you haven't liked the video, if you could please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be live streaming so much this season. I'm going to be live streaming before the games on Sunday, after the games on Sunday, before every Thursday night game. I'm going to be just constantly live streaming this season, so make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my videos. I'm going to be live streaming my wide receiver rankings and my running back rankings every single week. I do those via live stream. That way you can interact with me and let you know what you think about my rankings in real time while I give you my rankings. So I'm going to be doing that every single week at the running back and wide receiver position. So hit the subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss out. Any other fantasy football questions for week 2? Recapping tonight's game, talking about tomorrow night's games as well. Jamar Chase turning into a diva. Well, Jamar Chase is definitely turning into a diva. I mean, did you see him throw his helmet today? He was a little bit upset that, he should have had an unsportsmanlike or why am I drawing a blank? He should have had a penalty called for that face mask. But what is your home state NFL team? I am a Dallas Cowboys fan. So obviously this just isn't fun. I've been a Cowboys fan my whole life, and they've just always disappointed me. It freaking absolutely sucks. I lost to a Cup and Mixon, bad week. Yeah, man, I'm sorry. That's really bad luck. That's just bad injury luck, man. That's pretty much as bad as it gets. Yeah, Dallas is a good city, man. I like Dallas. It sucks being a Cowboys fan, but I definitely like the city that I live in. I've moved around a little bit. I lived in Las Vegas for a while. I lived in Los Angeles for a while, but Dallas is my hometown. I grew up here, and now I'm back home, and it's pretty sweet being home. I like it. Yeah, South Sea, you're going to have to make sure to tune into my waiver wire video this week because I got you, man. I'm not sure if I can find players as good as Cooper Kupp or Joe Mixon off the waiver wire, but I'm at least going to have some additions for you to make sure you soften the blow a little bit. Oh, we're talking about college football now? That's all right, man. Yeah, I mean, he does. I mean, the Longhorns just shot up to number 1 in the rankings. Now, I don't know a whole lot about college football. I don't follow it the way that I do the NFL. I mean, I say I don't know a lot. I still follow college football mainly for, having prospect profiles for the players that are coming out of college that are going to be fantasy options. But, yeah. Do you have the time you will do waivers? Do you have South Sea, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking me there. File on in, everybody. Ask me as many fantasy football questions as you want. Blow up the chat, and let's keep this rolling. Any sell highs after this week? I'm going to be doing a buy low, sell high video, so I'm going to be including most of them on the buy low, sell high video, Andre. So I don't want to give out any spoilers for that video. Would you hold Texans defense? I don't know, man. When it comes to defenses, I pretty much just like to play the matchups. I'm definitely one of those people that just prefers to play the matchup at the defensive position. So I don't know. You can hold the defense. You can hold the Texans defense. It's fine as long as, they're not taking up an important roster spot. Kind of want to see what I can get for Neighbors after the monstrous game. Yeah. What's your take on Kelsey rest of season? I don't know. I still like him. I mean, it's a slow start for a lot of tight ends. It's been a slow start for Sam Laporta, for Mark Andrews. It's been a slow start for a lot of fantasy viable tight ends. I don't really necessarily think that we have to panic on Kelsey too much. I still think he's going to be a viable fantasy option. I still think he's going to be a top 5 or 6-ish fantasy tight end. I think he might have been a little bit overdrafted given the fact that he was going as the tight end 2, but I still think he's going to be a good fantasy option rest of the year. I don't really think you have to worry about it. I have Laporta and Bowers is on my bench. Would you move one? You mean move one as far as like sell one? I wouldn't trade either of them if that's what you're asking. Are you saying like you would rather plug Bowers into your starting spot over Laporta? I am not plugging Bowers in over Laporta yet. I'm still starting Sam Laporta on a weekly basis, but we definitely need to monitor this one, and we might be replacing him with Bowers soon, but Laporta is still probably the superior tight end in a superior offense. I love Bowers from a talent perspective, but being in a top 5 overall projected offense, Sam Laporta still has a lot more upside in my opinion. Is Harrison Jr. startable rest of the season? Yeah. Yeah, of course he is. I mean, did you watch the games today? He absolutely went off. Yeah, I mean, I think Harrison Jr. is a must-start rest of the season, not just startable. This was my last game of having hope for Drake London. Yeah, I mean, I was down on Drake London to start the season. I didn't really like him going into the year, so I'm going to have to agree with you there. Appreciate you guys filing on in. Ask away fantasy football questions. Blow up the chat. Ask as many fantasy football questions as you want, especially with his ADP this year, bro. Yeah, he was being taken in the second round. That's absolutely ridiculous. Bob S. Isaiah Likely leveled off, but still pretty equal with Mark Andrews. Looks like the two tight end offense there. I don't know. I think Isaiah Likely is the guy. I think that Isaiah Likely is going to be the superior tight end this year from a fantasy points and overall points scored perspective. Second rounder is just crazy for him. Yes. With Kupp and Puka out, DeMarcus, oh my gosh, yes. DeMarcus Robinson to the freaking moon. I was already big on DeMarcus Robinson before Puka and Cooper Kupp went down. I knew that he was going to be by far and away the third best wide receiver in this offense, and now he's the best wide receiver in this offense, and they're going to have no choice but to go to DeMarcus Robinson like crazy. This dude's going to be getting 10 targets a game as long as those two guys are out. We have to see what the extent of the Cooper Kupp injury is, though. Thoughts on Olave? I think that Olave is going to be fine. I think he's going to bounce back. You think Jonathan Brooks is still a good hold? Yeah, I mean, like, I do and I don't. I mean, like, obviously he has the potential to be the most talented running back in the draft class, but at the same time, he's a guy who is looking like he might be very well in the worst offense in the NFL, hands down. So yes and no, I'm still going to hold him in deeper leagues, but for more shallow league formats, I might consider dropping him for a player in a better offense. Ridley looked damn good so far. Yeah, Ridley did look. He has. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. He had 6 targets today, converted, made him work. They were efficient, so he definitely looked good. Took McBride with early pick, then Likely with a later pick. Good job, Bob. Good freaking job. You have yourself 2 really good tight ends. If you guys haven't liked the video yet, make sure to like the video. Andre, that is a good question. I'm not sure on the extent of Kupp's injury yet. Last report I read, it wasn't supposed to be too serious, and he was only supposed to miss maybe 1 week. And probably not miss multiple weeks. So I don't think it's anything too incredibly serious. He should be back well before Puka Nacua is back. That's the last report I read, but I'm not 100% sure. Higgins is on a franchise tag and still hasn't played, shaking my head. Yeah, I mean, the Bengals are looking like a mess. If the Bengals come out and lose their next game, they're in trouble. I mean, if the Bengals start 0-3, they're about to be in a world of hurt, man. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Ask away fantasy football questions. Week 2, we're doing it live. Would you trade Pacheco for Olave? Would you trade Pacheco and Olave for Gibbs? No. I think you're giving up a little bit too much there. Obviously, Gibbs is the best player in the trade, but you're giving up a good running back and who I think is still going to be a good wide receiver in Chris Olave. You have a lot of wide receiver depth. I still wouldn't do it. I think you're giving away too much, bro. Think you're giving away too much. Now, it also depends on the extent of the Isaiah Pacheco injury, though. We got to keep an eye on that and make sure it's nothing too serious. Oh, yeah, Breece Hall is going to be a monster. In a lot of I literally, in my 13 leagues, I had 3 number 1 overall picks. I took Breece Hall 2 out of 3 times, and I took Christian McCaffrey 1 time. So I was betting more heavily on Breece Hall this year than I was on Christian McCaffrey because I think it was just way safer. The way Pacheco runs feel like he's always going to be banged up. The dude runs like a bull in a china shop. That's for Thursday. Think Pacheco – was he really on crutches? Oh, my gosh. Left the stadium in a boot and crutches. I didn't know that. I somehow missed that. I don't know how. Man. That's rough. Yeah, I mean, so many injuries through the first 2 weeks of the season. I mean, when was the last time y'all saw this many injuries through the first 2 weeks? I mean, I feel like every year injuries become more and more prominent. I feel like there's just more injuries every season. Last year I was saying this after the first 2 weeks of the season. I think there's more injuries than I've seen in a long time. And now I feel like there's been more injuries through the first 2 weeks of the season than there was last year through the first 2 weeks of the season. So it's just It's pretty crazy, man. All these players going down. Does anybody else know the extent of the Cooper Kupp injury? Blow up the chat and let me know the extent of the Cooper Kupp injury. Last report I saw was that he wasn't going to be missing any significant time, but he might miss a game. But I don't even think he was set to miss multiple games. But if anybody has any updates on the Cooper Kupp injury, let us know in the chat. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Blow up the comment section. Ask away on all your fantasy football questions regarding week 2. And let's keep this rolling. Oh my gosh, J.K. freaking Dobbins. Did I not mention J.K. Dobbins yet? Did I really not mention J.K. Dobbins in my players to the moon? How the hell did I forget J.K. Dobbins? I knew I should have written him down. I was just going off the dome. But, yeah. I mean, when you look at J.K. Dobbins, this dude has averaged almost 10 yards a carry so far this season. And if you look at him, like in his small sample size, he is the most efficient running back in the NFL from a yards per carry efficiency standpoint on the sample size of carries that he does have. So while he hasn't been on the field, he is the most efficient running back in the NFL from a yards per carry efficiency standpoint out of any running back in the NFL. And this dude was an absolute monster through the first 2 weeks of the season. He's playing in a run-heavy offense. It looks like he's going to be the guy. I'm glad I have a lot of them on Underdog. And yes, J.K. Dobbins to the freaking moon, averaging damn near 10 yards per carry in the early season. Heard chat of a possible fracture for Pacheco. Wonder if shorter preseason reason for all injuries. Cup high ankle sprain. I got your back. Like, yeah. Man, Nico freaking Collins to the moon. A possible fracture for Pacheco. Wonder if shorter preseason. I don't know, man. I think a big reason for all the injuries is the fact that these players don't play at all in the preseason. I think that you should actually get out there and play a little bit in the preseason versus just practicing in training camp and then trying to go out there and play at game speed. That's probably a reason for all the injuries. Not necessarily the fact that the preseason is shorter, but the fact that these players don't play in the preseason anymore. It's making the injuries even worse. And the irony is they do it to avoid injuries, and it's what causes them to get hurt. Knew I should have moved the old man. No. Cooper Kupp, even if he misses like a month, he could still be a league winner down the stretch. I don't think that we should panic on Cooper Kupp. Even if he misses some time, I don't think you should regret not selling him high after week 1. The only move with Kupp is to hold him. He can be the biggest league winner in all of fantasy whenever he is actually healthy and on the field. Nico is the guy in H-Town, no doubt about it. He's always getting injured. Well, the whole league's injured right now, man. You still have to keep your good players and not sell them just based on the fact that you think they're going to get hurt. I don't think you should have sold high on Kupp, bro. I think you're fine. Appreciate you guys tuning into the chat. Ask away your questions about today's games, tomorrow night's games. Blow up the comment section. Bloody Sunday. Yes, it absolutely was a bloody Sunday. I don't feel like it's going to get any better. I feel like these injuries are just they're just all over the place right now, man. It's crazy. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know what you think about fantasy football 2024 so far. Week 2, we're recapping. We're talking about players to the moon, and I do have to include J.K. Dobbins on my list. Thanks, Kels22, for reminding me of one of the players that is probably one of the most important players to put on this list in J.K. Dobbins, averaging damn near 10 yards a carry in the early season, has so far a 43-yard run, a 46-yard run, and a 61-yard run. To put that in perspective, Najee Harris, as much volume as he's had in his career, from what I'm pretty sure that he's never had a run of more than 37 yards in his entire career. J.K. Dobbins comes out in the first 2 weeks of the season and has 3 runs longer than Najee Harris has ever had a run in his entire fantasy career. This is a freaking monster running back. J.K. Dobbins is a very, very special talent and has the potential to be maybe the best running back in the NFL if he's actually healthy. Now, that's a major if. This dude is coming off of a torn Achilles, but if he stays on the field, this is one of the best running backs in the league, and he's a very special player with a shit ton of upside. Which trade Mixon for Achane? Oh, my God, yeah. If you could trade Mixon for Achane, you need to do that immediately. Which two to keep on IR? Tua, Brooks, or Hawk? Which two to keep on IR? Tua, Brooks, or Hawk? I'm going to be keeping Tua and Hawk. I'm not too sold on Jonathan Brooks right now because the offense freaking absolutely sucks. Any more injuries, they'll be signing us off the street. Man, I would love that, man. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go, like, I want to go hit somebody. I want to go light somebody up. That'd be fun. I mean, I'd probably get my ass run over, to be 100% honest with you, but, I can always try, right? What do you think I could get with a White Neighbors trade package? Right now, you get a lot because Malik Neighbors just absolutely went off. If I'm trading Malik Neighbors, I'm aiming for somebody that went in the second round or higher. Maybe, I don't know. I'm going to have to think on that one. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. Buy low trade targets. I don't know. I don't want to say Chris Olave because I'm not confident in Chris Olave right now. White and Neighbors trade package. You can get a lot. You can get a lot for White and Neighbors right now. So definitely aim high. You're definitely going to be going after somebody that is really damn good if you're trading both those players, selling high up the Malik Neighbors. And I could tell you really want to sell high on Malik Neighbors, which I actually like right now. And spoiler alert, he might be in my sell high videos this week. My running back 2 is Kamara, by the way. Who's your running back 1? You're sitting pretty if Kamara's your running back 2. And most people that have Kamara, he is their running back 2 or even their running back 3, considering the fact that he went in like the 6th round of fantasy drafts. Appreciate you guys tuning on in. White left. Good old Rachaad White. Mr. Absolutely terrible yards per carry efficiency, Rachaad White. Appreciate you guys tuning on in. Ask away fantasy football questions for week 2. What do you think of week 2? What questions do we have about tomorrow night's game? And we are continuing to recap week 2 fantasy football. And if you scroll to the top of my chat and scroll all the way down, you can see my players that I have going to the moon, my players that I have skyrocketing for this season. Any thoughts? Who do you think goes off tomorrow? Well, like, it's easy to just say that, like, all the elite fantasy studs are going to go off. Like, oh, Bijan Robinson's going to go off. Saquon's going to go off. Realistically, I think the most important player to have in tomorrow night's game by far and away is Saquon Barkley. Have Stroud. Only wide receiver to stack with him is Tank Dell, hoping his usage goes up. I think that Tank Dell is going to be just fine. I still think that Tank Dell is going to have weeks where he outperforms Nico Collins. Now, obviously, Nico Collins is very much looking like he's going to be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. I mean, when you look at the athletic intangibles, the dude is by far and away the most talented wide receiver on the team. But I still think that Tank Dell is going to be used heavily in this offense. And if he was inches away from catching that deep ball from C.J. Stroud today, in which he could have caught, he could have ran after the catch and taken to the house, and everybody would be talking about how freaking good Tank Dell is right now, Tank Dell to the moon, everything like that. As it is, he didn't catch the pass, so everybody thinks that Tank Dell sucks now. Very much not the case. He is the wide receiver 2 in the offense after Nico Collins, and I still think that Tank Dell is going to be just fine. Rachaad White is trash. Rachaad White's always been trash. If it's not Smith, who's the receiver that goes off for Philly? I mean, Jahan Dotson, I guess, but like really Dallas Goedert is going to be the next pass catching option in the offense. But it's going to be Smith. There's no way in hell. It's going to be Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is going to go off in this game. Devontae Smith with no A.J. Brown is an absolutely money play. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Ask away fantasy football questions. Someone else in the league kept Collins, so got Dell. Tank Dell's going to be fine, bro. Keep in mind that last season, who looked like the best wide receiver in the Texans offense after 2 weeks last season? It was Nico Collins. And then down the stretch, as Tank Dell started to get integrated into the offense, it started to look like he was the wide receiver 1 in the offense. I'm not saying that's going to happen this year. I'm sold on Nico Collins. However, I think that Tank Dell is going to be just fine. Is Shaheed better than Olave? No, Shaheed is not better than Olave. It is early season. I don't want to say flukiness, but it's just target share variance, reception variance. The dude has just gotten a ridiculous amount of deep targets, and they've converted on them. So right now it might look like Shaheed is better than Olave, but Olave is still the way better option going forward. for the rest of the season. Buy low on Jamar Chase. Yes, 100% buy low on Jamar Chase. The Bengals are going to bounce back. This happens with Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, believe it or not, is not the fantasy wide receiver that you think that he is. And I'm not saying that he's not a very good fantasy football wide receiver. It's just that he's not a great floor play, and he never has been. He's never been a player that comes out and gives you a steady, reliable floor. He hasn't. If you look at his rookie season, the reason he finished so high is because he had those kind of games where he had 266 receiving yards and multiple touchdowns. This is the kind of player Jamar Chase is. He's going to have bust weeks, and he's going to have weeks where he is the wide receiver one in all of fantasy and gets you 40-plus PPR points and wins you the week. And when you total the fantasy numbers at the end of the year, Jamar Chase is going to be one of the best wide receivers in fantasy yet again, like he is every single season. Buy low on Jamar Chase. Any players in mind for the White Neighbors trade? I don't know. Like I was saying, man, I'm going to have to think on that. Nobody comes to mind right off the top of my head. But in my sell high video, I might include I'm going to include Malik Neighbors in my sell high video. So just to let you know. Not that I don't like him. I just think he's a great sell high right now. Being a player that you could sell the rookie hype, the rookie excitement, the talent, and everything like that. But, at the end of the day, he's just not in a very good offense. JT or Gibbs, maybe. I don't think there's any way in hell that you get Jonathan Taylor or Jahmyr Gibbs for Rachaad White and Malik Neighbors. But if that does work, you need to do it immediately. I wonder what I could get for Kamara right now. You know what I think you should do with Alvin Kamara right now? What I really think you should do with Alvin Kamara, and this is a high-level move. We're playing 4D chess here. Just keep him. Just freaking keep Alvin Kamara, bro. Don't do anything with him. Let him cook. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Ask away all your fantasy football questions. We're here. We're doing it live. And we are getting ready for Monday Night Football tomorrow night. So ask me your Monday Night Football questions. Who do you think goes off tomorrow? Any start-sit questions for tomorrow night's game. If you want to support the channel, drop me a super chat. Show me some love. It goes a long way for me continuing to be able to do my live streams and everything like that. So if you want to super chat, it helps support the channel. But damn sure make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Looking forward to your waiver video. Yeah, man, I got you. I'm going to be doing a waiver wire video this week. I'm going to be doing a buy low trade targets video this week. I'm going to be doing a buy low trade targets video every week for the rest of the season to make sure that we're buying low on these guys and getting these steals in the trade market, because that's one of the most important things you could do throughout the season to manage your team. And then obviously picking up guys off the waiver wire is incredibly important as well. It's probably as important, if not more important, than making elite trades. Saquon's and Bijan show tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to be cool to see both those players sort of go against each other and see who ends up with the better fantasy night. Ask away, everybody. Jay Moore says, trade DK and Brian Thomas for Marvin Harrison Jr. I would do that in a heartbeat. I would do that in like 2 seconds if you can do it. I don't know that people are going to bite on that after Marvin Harrison Jr.'s performance, though. But, yes, I would trade DK Metcalf and Brian Thomas for Marvin Harrison Jr. without hesitation. Apparently, Johnny Wilson is the wide receivers 3 behind Smith and Dotson. Look, it's going to be the Devontae Smith show in Philly tomorrow night. DK just had an insane game, bro. 40 points. I know. I mean, like, I know DK Metcalf just went off, but, like, it's one game, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a way better season than DK Metcalf. I'm telling you right now. Did he really have – he had 40 points? I got to see this. I didn't know he scored 40 points. Appreciate you guys tuning in, answering all fantasy football questions for week 2. We are trying to get our best team on the field for Monday Night Football tomorrow night. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Blow up the comment section. Drop me a super chat. Don't drop me a super chat. Whatever you want to do. Either way, help support the channel by liking and subscribing. And let's keep this video rolling. DK had an insane game. 40 points. Okay, I got to check on this. DK Metcalf. If DK Metcalf just had a 40-point game, we're going to be including him in my sell high video as well. He had 28 fantasy points. DK Metcalf had 28 fantasy points. 40 points. You had me going there. Neighbors had 18 targets. You high on him? I mean, Might not be popular opinion, but I'm not that high on him. I mean, he doesn't play in a good offense. I think he's a better sell high target because I think that right now his perceived value after this game is higher than his actual value. So from a market share standpoint, I'm not that big on him. I love the player. I love the talent, and I think that he's going to be pretty good this year. But I think what you can get for him is better than what his actual value is. Right now, his perceived value is higher than his actual value, to answer your question. Thoughts on Pat Mahomes moving forward? I still think that Pat Mahomes will absolutely explode this year. Now, it's a little bit of a blow that we're not going to have Marquise Brown come back to the offense. It looks like Marquise Brown is going to miss the season, but it's still an offense led by Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and Xavier Worthy. So I still think that Mahomes is going to have a really good season. With Amon-Ra and T. Higgins both being injured, I'm stuck starting Christian Kirk. You're stuck starting Christian Kirk and Palmer. That freaking sucks. Love Neighbors. Love Neighbors. Who would you trade him for? Somebody really damn good. You got to be getting somebody really good if you're trading Malik Neighbors. Coming off this performance, would you trade Neighbors for Chase? In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Would I trade Neighbors for Jamar Chase? I would. If I was in 100 leagues and I could do that 99 times out of 100 and get 99 Jamar Chases and only have one Malik Neighbors, I would do it 99 times. I would take Jamar Chase over Malik Neighbors in almost every instance. Would I trade Neighbors for Rice? Lateral move, probably not. But I would damn sure trade him for Jamar Chase. And right now, if you can sell high right now on Malik Neighbors and get Jamar Chase, then that's the answer to the question that y'all asked me earlier. Who would you sell Malik Neighbors for? The answer would be Jamar Chase. I was just thinking that there's no possible way, but if there's anybody in your league that would actually sell Jamar Chase for Malik Neighbors, you need to do it immediately. Would you start Marvin Harrison Jr. over Neighbors the rest of the season? Yes, without question. He's in what I think is going to be a better offense, and as good as Malik Neighbors is, and he's really damn good, I still think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is the superior talent in a better offense. And obviously, like, Neighbors is seeing an insane target share. But, yes, I'm still taking Marvin Harrison Jr. rest of season. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Ask away fantasy football questions in the chat. Blow it up. Drop me a super chat. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't gone over and subscribed to the channel yet, for the love of God, hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you catch my waiver wire video this week. Make sure that you catch my buy low trade targets video this week. And I'm going to be doing my running back and wide receiver rankings this week via live stream. That way we could do it more interactively. And every time I drop my rankings, you guys can let me know what you think of my rankings in real time. And we're going to do it that way. That's insane. Should I try Neighbors for Chase trade? Yes. Yes, 100% you should. If you trade Malik Neighbors and you get Jamar Chase, you have committed highway robbery. Like I said, if I was in 100 leagues and I could get 99 Jamar Chases, I would do it. I would do it. We're taking Jamar Chase over Malik Neighbors 99 times out of 100. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Blow up the chat. Let me know what you think about week 2. What are we doing tomorrow night? What questions do we have about tomorrow night's game? Man, Andre, you're stuck starting Christian Kirk and Palmer. That's rough, man. That's rough. Yeah, bro, you need to go make that trade right now. Trade Malik Neighbors for Jamar Chase. Do it now. Do it live. Thoughts on Hurts tomorrow? I think that Hurts, he's obviously a must-start player, right? And I think that even though Saquon got all the rushing touchdowns in the first game of the season, I think that Jalen Hurts still has a high rushing touchdown floor and ceiling. And I think that Jalen Hurts probably goes off tomorrow night because I think he's going to go off almost every game this season. I mean, it's Jalen freaking Hurts. Dude's a monster. If you guys are just now tuning in, you can always scroll to the very top of the chat and check out my players that are going to the moon. These are players that you want to try to get on your fantasy team, maybe in the trade market or however you could get them. And if you have them, it's probably best to hold them. Or if you're going to sell high on them, well, I would change my mind and not sell high on them and just keep them on your roster. Ask away, everyone. Fantasy football questions regarding week 2 of the fantasy football season. We are recapping week 2. We are talking about tomorrow night's game, start sit decisions. Hit me with your questions, and let's keep this rolling. I'm up 143 to 126 with Hurts left to play against 4-point passing TDs. So you're playing against Jalen Hurts, and you're up 17, is what you're saying? Speaking of Jay Moore, what do y'all think about DJ Moore rest of the season with Caleb Williams slinging him the rock? Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that DJ Moore might have been a one-hit wonder, not because he doesn't have talent, but because he's just cursed with not having good quarterbacks. They have no run game either. Yeah, they really don't. Top waiver ads for week 3. Jay Moore, you got to catch my waiver wire video that I am doing this week, and I will be including all of the top waiver ads for week 3. I'm also doing a buy low trade targets video. It's looking like they should have kept Fields, bro. Yeah, I mean, it was a stupid decision. They built this team around Fields, and then they dumped him off right as the team was kind of starting to gel, at least a little bit. He should be good, but I don't know Caleb going to be fantasy worthy. Yeah, I don't think Caleb's going to be fantasy worthy, bro. Yes, playing against Hurts. So Hurts only needs 17 points to beat you. Bro, if I were a betting man, I would say that he's going to get 17 points or more. I'm rooting for you to win. I'm rooting for everyone that's here in my chat supporting the channel. But to be honest with you, if he only needs 17 points, I think he's probably going to get it. Fields and Moore had a connection. Yeah, Fields and Moore definitely had a connection. Appreciate you tuning in, guys. Drop your comments, drop your super chats, subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video if you haven't already. I dropped 174 points. That's it? You only dropped 174? I dropped 175, bro. Just kidding. I dropped 174 points in half PPR this week. That is a ridiculous performance, my man. Good job. You must have had Alvin Kamara. I know you had Alvin Kamara if you dropped 174 points. Good job, man. 174 points in a half PPR. That's a monster performance, bro. Good job. Welcome in, everybody. Texans kicker crushed. Every kicker crushes now. They all make, like, everything. Like kickers, they don't miss anymore. 50 yards, 60 yards, it doesn't matter. They just make everything. It's crazy. File on in, everybody. Drop a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Literally, if you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed to my channel, go down and click the subscribe button right now. We are going to be dropping a waiver wire video this week and a buy low trade targets video this week. And we're going to be doing my running back rankings and my wide receiver rankings via live stream this week. That way you guys can interact with me while I drop my rankings and let me know what rankings you agree with and don't agree with for the week. It's a much more interactive way to do rankings, so I'm going to be doing them via live stream. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on this stuff, guys. We got big things coming. We're winning leagues here at Crushing Fantasy Football this season, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Do it right now, and ask me your questions for tomorrow night's game as well. Ten-team half PPR. Kyler, Tyreek, Marvin Harrison Jr., Achane, Kenneth Walker, Bowers, Kamara, Ingram, Charbonnet, Keenan Allen, Worthy, Jalen Wright, IR, Brooks, and Chubb. Any moves or trade I should make? It's tough, man, because like you really don't want to sell Tyreek Hill right now because people are so down on him because of the Tua injury. Marvin Harrison Jr., I wouldn't touch him. Achane, I wouldn't touch him. Kenneth Walker, Bowers, Kamara, Ingram, Sharp, you absolutely did go off this week. That is a monster team. I would just hold on to everybody for now, bro. I don't see any reason why you should trade anybody coming off a 174-point performance. I would just keep everybody. I don't think any of these players that went off are necessarily good sell-high candidates. In fact, I'm doing a sell-high video this week, and I'll tell you right now that none of the players you have on your team are going to be sell-highs for me. They're all going to be holds. I ended up starting Bill's kicker. I have to get rid of him. Sorry about that. Going to pick up Burrow and waivers and try to trade Neighbors for Chase. Yes, South Sea 77. Please do that. If you could end up with a Burrow and Jamar Chase stack, that would be absolutely awesome here. We are taking Jamar Chase over Malik Neighbors every single time. So go do that right now. 5 points for every 50-plus yard field goals. Yep. Field goal kickers are big difference-making players, especially in standard leagues. In standard formats, they're massive difference-making players for sure. Guys, make sure to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. We're doing it live here. We're doing our running back and wide receiver rankings every single week on this channel. This is the only channel you need for your weekly rankings. We're doing them live. That way you can interact with me while I do my rankings. Tell me what you agree on or don't agree on. But either way, I'm going to be doing my top running back and wide receiver rankings every week live on this channel. We're doing a waiver wire video this week. We're doing a buy low trade targets video this week. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. Drop a like on the video. Help this video get out to as many people as possible. Drop a super chat if you want to support the channel. And I'm answering all fantasy football questions. Let's go. All right, guys. I think I'm going to get on out of here. It's getting a little bit late. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to like and subscribe and everything like that. And I will catch y'all in the next live stream. And make sure to catch my buy low trade targets video this week.